So I'd like to introduce everybody to our second edition, if you will, of Triune of Health Internet TV show. And very excited today to have with me a friend and someone who I've had to connect with for a good number of years. Susan Holmberg, welcome.
Thanks, Jack.
You bet. So those of you who may not know a little bit about the essence of our little Triune, I came up with this concept of align the spine, eat from the vine, and calm the mind. And what we're looking to do is, or what I have done, is to put together and gather some very, very important people in my life, those who I know will have a great impact on your life. And Susan today is going to talk a little bit about her work. And Sue, the first thing that I ask everybody is a question like, why do you do what you do?
Which, of course, is a very small and quick answer.
Go ahead.
It's interesting for me a lot. I thought about this after you mentioned to me coming and talking about this, because it is exactly why I do what I do, is what my own personal life experience has been. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to use my life experience towards a career. And the reason I do what I do for me is I sort of have to go back and give you a little bit of history, but sure. I am one of these people. I'm intelligent, I'm diligent, but I'm very addictive by nature. And food was kind of my first, last, and always addiction. And I was really pretty eating disordered through pretty severely eating disordered. Starting in my college years really is when it got out of hand. And I got myself, and I was fortunate enough to know that probably I was going to have to figure out how I was going to solve this. So I was fortunate enough to go to work for a company in my 30s, still a very eating disordered person. They just, unknowingly hired me in that condition. They didn't know. But it ended up being so pivotal for me to help me deal with myself. Because I had signed myself into food rehabs and I had done therapy, and I won't discount any of those things. I think everything's part of a process for you.
Sure.
But what they taught were self-empowerment tools to make behavior changes, and they taught you that you didn't have to be perfect about how you ate. You had to understand your own behavior patterns and where it began and where it ended, and be able to interrupt that behavior chain. And they also taught something that was hugely helpful to me that I still incorporate as a tool, not an answer, but a tool, which is how to understand how to work your body like a budget so that you didn't have to be perfect all the time.
So let me ask a question, especially for our listening audience. One of the reasons that I asked you to be here, because I know that so much of your work deals with behavior more so than introducing you just as a nutritionist. In other words, I know you have a tremendous background and you are a nutritionist, but one of the things that I've experienced in my 36 years working with thousands of patients is that so many of us, so I guess we can say, we know what to do.
Yeah. And
yet we just don't have the ability to execute. And I'm going to comment one more and then I'll ask you to continue. But one of the reasons that I also want Susan here to share with you is that she's the one that brought out to me that I'm the discipline guy. And I have a hard time understanding, but all you got to do is just do it.
Yeah.
And yet that is probably the biggest challenge. And I'm always telling people, you got to get off the high fact diet, meaning it's just about facts and more facts. We have enough facts, and we all have Google available to us. So maybe you want to comment a little bit about what this game of behavior is, and maybe why some people don't have the discipline and others may.
You're making me laugh, because I'm thinking about the first time you asked me to come and do a lecture with you, and you did your little piece, and then my title of my lecture was "I'm not a Chuck Berg." Let me just start out by saying that, because I think people look at people who just do it and figure they've got something that I don't have. And in a way that's true, but that doesn't mean you can't solve the problem anyway. And that, to me, was the most hopeful thing that I could learn. What I bring to the table, and I think clients need to bring to help themselves, is a desire to get it done. But I think that the idea that, my typical phone call is, I know what to do, but I'm not doing it. And that's exactly who I can, among the many things that make a particular type of a client that can be successful with what I teach, I say that's one of the things that I hear all the time.
So from a benefits point of view, Sue, what could potential clients of yours or people who are just interested in understanding more about this, what would you say are some of the best benefits that people walk away with after, obviously, if they do the job?
I mean, aside from the idea that, most of my clients come for some level, some type of weight management, and because of now how much weight people are carrying, they're frequently ill, so they can learn to deal with all of those chronic illnesses as a result of weight. I mean, aside from that, which would be the obvious measurable changes that they might come from because of their doctor or a desire to lose weight, what I believe that they truly can get by trying to do what I'm helping them do, because it would apply to every area of their life, is to understand that I would read a diet book, and it would sort of imply that you had to have this aha moment, and then if you had that, it wouldn't be an issue anymore, and that is not my experience, and that would really demoralize me. I'd read it and go, oh gosh, here we go, uh-oh. What I think they really walk away with is the idea that you could actually kind of take apart your behavior chain, and if you can kind of get onto yourself, sort of, you can learn to essentially outsmart yourself, and you can take actions that are, I don't want to say superficial because they're not insignificant, but external actions that you can take that not only create an environment that supports you, which is about 80% of the task, but you can also motivate yourself. In fact, when people are motivated, it's not happening in a vacuum. They've done something that motivated themselves. They maybe haven't identified all the components of that, and when they derail, they were part of that derailment, and they can learn to understand that whole chain. And that was the most hopeful thing I ever heard way back when I worked for this company that taught this kind of thing, was that I didn't have to get over it. I had to understand how the behavior chain unfolded and get back to the beginning of it before the train's even on the tracks, so you can stop the locomotive. I think people try with weight particularly, they berate themselves, they're under tremendous amount of stimulus, and then when they're nose to nose with the food, they can't understand why they can't just not have it. And I would just say that's probably not ever going to be like the best strategy. But there's tons more you could have actually done long before that.
So strategies are what you help put together for people, helping them to become what we call conscious of choices, actions, and habits. And if I were to ask you a question like, who would be, Susan, your ideal client? Can you kind of create that? Not that you have to be that,
right,
but what is an ideal client for you?
It's so interesting because so often what makes an ideal client is the same thing that makes somebody good at a lot of different things. And if they're good at some of these things we're going to mention in any other area of their lives, chances are they could apply it to this one too. They just haven't thought to. They've thought of this as emotional. They've thought of it as good, bad, moral, immoral, whatever other words they might apply to themselves that are frequently negative. But the truth is, the things that I would say somebody needs to bring to the table, and I can't give them, by the way, they have to want to get it done, for whatever their reasons are, but they have to have an internal reason why they want to get this job done that's coming from them. Something prompted them to call, whatever that was, they need to keep that alive because they need to want to do it. And I would say they have to be, they need to be willing to take the action steps, and frequently baby steps. I hate to say that. If you'd ever told me it'd take me this long to get as far as I've gotten, I'm not sure if I would have wanted to begin the journey, but it does happen in baby steps, almost everybody's journey. So they have to come with those two things, the desire to get it done and the willingness to be more analytical and less emotional about this so that they can learn to take baby steps and build a new set of habit patterns.
One of the things that comes to my mind when we talk about quickness and expedience, one of the problems that I hear from so many of my patients that I work with, whether it be with rehabilitation of their spine or trying to support them nutritionally, is we live in this world of immediate gratification. And I would have to maybe just comment for a moment on, is there a time frame? I know we can never do that. Like someone says to me, well, how quickly can my back, everybody's different, and I'm sure each of your clients are different. But maybe can you share with our listening audience a range? I mean, can people form habits and habits form futures? It's a quote I once heard. And even though we do have our default emotion, we have our reflex behaviors towards food, etc., can people see some changes within a relatively short period of time?
Oh, absolutely. And they'll often ask me, how long should I expect to be coming here? And I say, how diligent are you willing to be? Okay. Because I actually have them leave each session with things that we together collaboratively have decided on. So I'm not their judge and jury, I'm their collaborator on this, a few list of things are going to change. And in fact, on the way over here, I was returning a call from a former client who did really well, and she just sort of took the bull by the horns and found a few things that were so specific to her life that and made a big difference, that when she put them into effect, they really sort of took care of the bigger picture of what she wanted her weight to do, without having to change every single thing about her life. But she was diligent, and she had referred me to her doctor, and I said, I hope you told them that the credit is yours. I just help you figure out what to do. And she said, what I told them was, everybody else is cookie cutter, but you help people find their own way. But they have to be on that journey themselves. It's the one thing I can't give people, which is an eternal frustration, is I can't make them want it.
Yeah.
I wish I could.
Well, this brings up the classic quote that Chuck Berg used all the time, that people must find their why.
Yes.
Without a why, there's no there's no compliance. I use it so often because, we can't, like people say, oh, Chuck, you're a good motivator. Well, no, not motivator, but rather we try to give people, help them bring forth their why to this whole process. Another thing I just want to comment and compliment you, Susan, is that, number one, I know how hard you work at what you do. I also know that you are incessantly studying, learning, and just trying to improve upon yourself. And another thing I'll comment, you're amazingly humble. You know, you don't necessarily want to take the credit, but I have had many clients that I've referred to Susan who comment on, you know, just the, what's the words I want to use? The intelligence, the support that you give, yes, humility, but most importantly, I like to surround myself who suffer from the four-letter word C-A-R-E. You care a lot, and this is the reason for creating the Triune of Truth and bringing these kind of people who I'm hoping can really be of help to the support and the clientele that we work with. So, Susan, one last question. So if there are people out there who it sounds like, you know, this is something, the service that they could potentially use, how would somebody get in touch with you?
Well, two things I'd say about that. One, of course, to get in touch with me, you can email me through my site, or Susan@SusanHolmberg.com, or you can call my office number, which I guess you'll technically show how to print across the bottom of this page.
Yeah, we can do that.
But I would tell someone if they're interested at all, and don't, you know, I talk to people a long time on the phone for a good half an hour or whatever before they come, because I want to explain what I do and not have them be deluded into thinking I've got a magic wand for them, because I don't, and I want them to understand that this is their journey.
Yeah.
I'll help them, you know, try to get through it and come up with some new ideas for them. But the other thing I would mention is I write blog entries, as you know, 2 blogs. One is called Surviving Myself, and one is called Morning Musings. And they're really very practical, very concrete things like this. And Surviving Myself is about all the mental games we play and how you can help yourself. And they're on my website all the time. And those are a good way.
And your website is?
SusanHolmberg.com.
Did you get that?
SusanHolmberg.com.
We'll put that on here as well. Well, Susan, I just want to say thank you so very, very, very much for coming here and, you know, sharing your heart with us. And I can only state as a testimonial for myself personally in my interactions with Susan, as well as a number of clients who have used her services, you've got a loving, caring, supportive, nurturing person who could be of great help. So whether or not this pertains to you, and whether there's someone in your family that you feel could benefit from Susan's services, we hope that you'll reach out. So until our next time, thank you so very much for tuning in to the Triune of Health TV Internet show, and we'll see you on our next episode. Thank you.